The chances are you're going to eat a barbecue outdoors at some point this summer, if you haven't already. But in these hot temperatures, we all need to take care to minimize the risk of food poisoning. The GHA says we should thoroughly cook poultry, meat, and eggs. We should use a cooler bag for meat when returning from the supermarket, and use separate utensils and cutting boards for raw and cooked foods. You should also wash your hands thoroughly before and after handling food. You should refrigerate perishable foods quickly and avoid leaving cooked foods at room temperature for very long.
The Environmental Agency, we deal with the food safety aspects of things, and we do inspections at establishments and investigate sort of these cases and outbreaks. But we advise people to follow the 4 C's of food safety, which is what we call it. So that's cleaning, chilling, cooking, and cross-contamination. So if you've got those 4 sort of locked down, you significantly reduce the risk of coming down with food poisoning. So, for example, with cooking, beef and poultry, pork should be dealt differently. For example, beef is normally contaminated on the surface, and pork and poultry, there's contamination throughout the meats. So with that, you need to treat it a little bit differently. So you need to make sure there's no pink, or the juices run clear for poultry and pork. Whereas beef, some people, depending on their taste, can sear it and they'll be fine. And then you've got things like cleaning. So it's very important that if you're handling raw foods and that you're touching sort of vegetables and things like that, that you wash your hands.
So we've had 13 lab-confirmed cases since the middle of June, and as you mentioned, sadly 2 have been hospitalised. And this really does remind us of the importance and the serious consequences that these foodborne bacterial infections can have. Salmonella and campylobacter are both bacteria, typically found in food, and as the temperature goes up, that's when the bacteria can multiply. And then in humans, the bacteria can multiply and cause very nasty vomiting, diarrhoea, stomach cramps, and at this time of year, dehydration. And it's the dehydration that we typically see people then hospitalised.
They consume the food, but also in some instances you can actually pass on the infection. But normally it's when you consume the food and within an incubation period, we call it, so it could be within 72 hours, you'll start getting the symptoms, as Helen was mentioning earlier.
And I suppose because it's 72 hours, that makes it harder to know what the source is?
Sometimes people ask me, it's not necessarily the thing you ate the night before. You always say, it's the kebab I ate last night. It's not necessarily the case. It's like E. coli, for example. That is a big range. It's from a day to 10 days. So it's sometimes quite tricky for us on our end to establish what exactly the person ate.
Well, a common theme is people think it's the air conditioning is cool enough to leave your plate of chicken out on the side. It really isn't. You can put, cook your meat, let it, take it out the oven for 5-10 minutes, then you can cool it down in the fridge. And that's really important. There's this myth out there that people can't put hot food into a fridge. You can, because it's that rapid chilling that we're after. And these are just some practical examples. Don't leave food out on the side, especially cooked meat, for hours at a time, and then go back and think, I'll have a nibble of that chicken leg, chicken wing hours later. That's when the bacteria are able to multiply and people end up ill.
If you have salmonella symptoms like prolonged diarrhea, stomach cramps, vomiting and fever, you can contact 111 for advice.